Welcome everybody back for our third district session. This session, we're going to talk about youth and we're going to talk about risk. Youths. For those of you who are my cousin Vinny fans, it's youths. For the rest of you sophisticated people, it's youth. Okay. So our first speaker is going to be Mary Bach, our district governor nominee, who will follow me in the district governor line, and she's going to talk to us about youth. Well, I think we're going to watch a video first. Yeah, we have a video first. We like videos. So. And let me mention these videos. The reason we put these videos up is because we do like videos. And these videos are a good idea for your clubs. I mean, you can see they're short. They're on My Rotary. And if you can't find them on My Rotary, just Google Rotary videos and they will come up. And lots of them are pretty entertaining. I mean, the one this morning about the quiz show was pretty entertaining. The one we saw yesterday about My Rotary is pretty entertaining. You're going to see this one here is pretty entertaining. There's a lot of good videos and get your clubs talking and things. So think about doing this at your club. You don't have to do one every week meeting, but when you're looking for something to do and you don't have a speaker and you're trying to fill in time, show a video.
Have you ever thought about being in the youth exchange?
You're asking me.
Have you ever thought about being part of youth exchange?
Well, yeah, you should. Of course.
My name is Paige Mason, and I went to Thailand in 2005-2006.
My name is Adam Hennings. I went to Austria in 2004-2005.
My name is Brooke Lodine. I went to Argentina.
My name is Lisa Miller, and I went to Germany.
I think that if people are wondering if they should be an exchange student, you should do it. If you have to ask, there's probably some curiosity in you, like, could I do it, or how would it be worth it? And that's the curiosity that makes it a good year.
I had a high school German teacher who told me that, this is 1 year, but this is your life. And that 1 year can mean so much more to you than just the 12 months that you're abroad. The value that you're going to get from being abroad is going to surpass everything that you would have experienced if you were still here.
Before I went, I would kind of ask a bunch of people, oh, is it okay if I do this? Do you think I should do this? And then now, because of being on youth exchange, I just feel, okay, I want to do that. I'm going to, and then I do it, and I'm happy I did it, obviously, and I'm a lot stronger in knowing what I want to do and executing it.
Do it. It is the best experience you will have, and it won't be fabulous the entire time. You're going to have rough spots, but it is definitely worth it. I mean, look at your past week. How many rough spots have you had so far? And just think now you could experience those completely differently in a different place. And you will experience all the good things that you've never had before.
It's something that I recommend to anyone who is looking for a challenge and for an amazing experience.
Just as a disclaimer, I would say be really sure that it's what you want, because that's what's going to make all the difference when you're there and you're homesick and you want to leave. Like, you have to be able to go back and say that you wanted that. But aside from that, I would say do it. It's so worth it. Even just knowing another language and having that bicultural experience, there's nothing that can top it. You'll never get that experience anywhere else. So I'd really encourage people to do it.
Do it because there's no reason in the world not to. And I mean, if anyone ever asks me, why should I do this? I'm just going to look at them and say, why shouldn't you? It's the best thing ever.
For those of you who went to pre-pets, this is going to be a bit of a repeat, but these are such important things for club president-elects to know about and take care of before you enter your Rotary year that we thought it was worthwhile. So a couple of things that are required by District 6440 for youth protection. It's one of those things, and somebody this morning said that the harassment breakouts were not well attended, and it's because I think people don't want to necessarily talk about youth protection and harassment. Those are not comfortable topics, but it is a very critical part of what you need to do and know about as club presidents. So, two requirements. One is that all, let me start with the club compliance. So all club presidents must submit an affidavit of club compliance. And it is on the Rotary District website, 6440 website. It looks like, I brought a couple of copies for those of you who like.
Mary, you need to
paper.
speak up.
Okay. It looks like this. I do have a couple of copies for those of you who really want to walk away with a piece of paper. However, it has to be submitted online. So you can take it, you can read it, you know what you're signing. And basically what it says is that the club president, on behalf of the club, will make sure that all of the volunteers that are involved in youth programs or have any connection with youth, and that can be Interact, it can be RILA, it can be Youth Exchange. Obviously, those are higher levels of participation. But if you're going to the local high school and working with the Interact Club or talking to the Interact Club, you're having contact with youth. So the best thing to do is that, and you are right there, stand up here or stand
Back here, right there.
where you were sitting. Okay. But the tape is over there.
Yeah.
We'll take care of it,
The
Mary.
tape is the tape. Okay, so one thing on the video that's different is that we are part of the Central States Rotary Youth Exchange. That is on the district website as well, and that's again a grouping of Rotary districts that work on youth exchange. Same idea, I mean, go to youth exchange. So the district youth exchange chair ensures that the volunteers for all those programs have met the requirements. So again, file that affidavit of club compliance. It's right here. Everybody who is in more direct contact with youth is also signs a volunteer consent form. This is on the district. Once you complete that information, a background check is triggered, which is up to 3 people are paid for by the district. So your youth protection chair, if you have a youth activities chair, or you have an Interact liaison that's going to have constant and regular contact with youth, needs to fill out that volunteer consent. Yep.
Do they have to do it every year? Because we have
Every year. Every year. This is a requirement for all incoming club presidents and all chairs, whether or not that chair has been in that position since God created Youth Exchange or something. Yes.
When we, excuse me, when we get back to meeting in public, our Interact students join us in our morning meetings. Does every club member then need to sign this since they're at the meeting with us?
Yeah, I would say no.
Okay.
And because that is a group panel kind of a situation. We are working on a youth policy, a youth protection policy in District 6440. There is one currently on the district website, and we're looking at, making sure that language is consistent with the Rotary International guidelines and what works in those kinds of situations. So a group setting like that will be okay. So if you have your Interact students participating in a fundraiser or in a social activity, no. But if you're going to drive your student somewhere, or you're going to drive a couple, first of all, do not, the policy says do not drive unless there's 2 of you in the car. So those kinds of things. But again, those group settings, no, you're fine. John?
When do we complete that? Before
Right
our term
now,
starts,
as
or
long as
after?
you're, as long as you are now in the system as a president-elect. You can sign it now for starting in July. So again, I mentioned it today because you can get these things done before you actually take over as president.
I just want to clarify, the affidavit has to be done every year.
Yep.
Does a background check have to be done every
It
year?
will be done every year. Yeah,
Okay.
the volunteer form needs to be filled out every year. The other thing that needs to be done every year is completing the youth protection training. The youth protection training is found in the Rotary Learning Center. Okay. Excuse me, there's a link to it on the website. So, and it's a 15-20 minute exercise, really gives you great information. But again, that needs to be completed by all of your youth people, whoever they are. Sometimes they have different names in different clubs.
Did youth exchange back in vogue now?
So I'm gonna talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
I'm gonna talk about that in a little bit. Yep. Right now.
So our club, we have 4 or 5 interact clubs,
Mhm.
but it's actually run by the school districts. We only coordinate with them and help them. Would that person still have to do that?
So the person in your club who is the liaison between your club and the Interact advisor at the high school would be the one that would fill it out.
Okay, but I don't,
Unless there's a more hands-on.
yeah, I don't think they even meet with the kids, though. Our,
I would say that for what it takes to do it, I would absolutely fill out the volunteer form.
And I think it's just good practice.
It's just, yeah, it's just the right thing to do. If anything were to, to come up, you've got that piece of it done. And again, it's very quick. We are so Chris Joyce just work through some names here. Chris Joyce from the Evanston Lighthouse Club is our youth protection advisor. District governor nominee sort of oversees youth programs, so we kind of work together. We have RILA next weekend, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but we have RILA next weekend, and all of Sean Nelson's people, his team who are going to be at the RILA session are this week filling out those volunteer consent forms, and the background checks are being completed. Now, again, they're having direct contact with the teens next weekend, but.
Here's something from the audience. John Plant. John, you want to say something?
I just have a question. I understand the affidavit is filled out annually. You can do it now. But what I'm not sure is the youth protection training, do all presidents have to take that too? Or is that just for people who are directly involved with the youth?
Youth protection training is also taken by the club president
Okay,
annually.
that's what I needed to know.
I took the class already, and so how does that work? I mean, I completed the class. Is it automatically linked to the district?
Yep.
So
We can get a report from the learning center
okay.
as to who has started the course. So you remember when we did our online training, you sign up for a class in the Rotary Learning Center, you enroll.
No, I completed it.
And
So-
then once
so
you complete
I
it,
printed a certificate just.
Oh,
in
that's
case you didn't
good.
get it.
it's always
But
good.
it automatically goes to district then.
We can actually pull the reports of who has enrolled in a class and then whether or not they've all been completed.
Okay, all right.
Sure.
Yeah, I get a report every single week
Monday
that
Okay.
tells me who's enrolled, who's in process, and who's completed.
Cool.
So I actually could look it up and tell you where everybody is right
So
now.
there's no.
And that's for all classes in learning. So
That's for all classes, but I can filter on you and exactly know what you've done.
Gives you a real good feeling about Linda, doesn't it?
Okay, well, you don't use that Rotary police word, but okay, what did I just hear?
It's an honor system, but
Yes.
in answer to your question,
It's
you don't have
there.
to send us the certificate. We can validate it.
And, yeah.
Quick question. If you're planning on doing a lot of projects that include youth, does it make sense to have at the meeting, just have everybody who's at the meeting watch the video? And is there a way to, have a list of the people that are at the meeting and incorporate that somehow?
I don't think it.
It has to be independent or?
Yeah, well, I don't think you could do it together, but you'd all have to be logged into your Rotary account to do it, I think. I don't know that we have a group
There's not a group way to do
There's
it,
not a
whether or
group way
not
of
we
doing
would
it.
accept the fact that if you were doing it in a meeting, and especially if you were doing a Zoom thing and recording it, and you could see that everybody had done it,
Yeah.
I would,
don't know.
I'm not the youth person, but
See,
I would
that's a
say,
new question. That's a new question. I mean,
This is my Rotary Learning
I would say it's
because
an
it's your
innovative
Rotary.
way of getting education to a lot of people, and that's probably a good
Yeah.
idea.
I'm wondering,
Go for it.
is there a kind of a checklist of all the things we have to have in place by July 1st?
Yep.
And not a check, not a list of web pages, but an actual do this, that, and that.
Well, the president resource folder on the District 6440 webpage is, I think, constantly being updated to make sure that that checklist is complete. And it probably does include a lot of links because that's how you access the information. But again, go to that club president resource folder for 22-23. And you should find that information on the website. 644. So that's the District 6440 website.
Yeah.
Does that help? Okay. So again, all members working with Youth Exchange, just to reiterate, all members of the youth service team within the district and then at the club level need to to complete that. And there's far more information on the District 6440 webpage, which I think is the next slide. Okay.
There we go.
Okay, so this is where the youth protection tab in the District 6440 website. And it does have links to all of the things that you need to know about. Youth protection policy is on the website. It's up at the top in the first gold bar. As I mentioned, the district is actually, the district leadership, youth protection officer, the youth advisor are working on revising that language in that policy. But for right now, you can go to that. You can see exactly what the youth protection policy is. There's also a link to the youth protection guide from Rotary International. They are aligned. They are very consistent with each other. And they deal with things like what happens if there's an allegation of abuse? What happens if you're going to be with students or youth in various circumstances? How do you respond to what you should be doing in advance? Take the course, sign the compliance folder. So we plan on going into greater depth on youth protection itself on the policy at the spring training. So spring training for District 6440 is now on the website. It's May 7th. It will be a virtual event from 9 to noon. And there will be a section in much greater depth on the youth protection policy. I don't have enough time to talk about it. Okay, moving on to the very fun things. All the different youth programs. That video was from the North Star Group. Our youth exchange is very similar to that. Who has had long-term and short-term exchange students in the past? Yeah, so there's a pretty good number. It is pretty much the same. I think one of the big disappointments the last couple of years with a virtual district conference is that we don't have the kids with us. We don't have the parade of nations flags. We don't have the variety show or whatever the entertainment that they put together. Even if your club wasn't directly involved in a youth exchange, which is fulfilling in itself, having them at the district conference and seeing what they're doing and hearing their stories and having the opportunity to sit with them at dinner is just awesome. So we are truly, truly hoping that it returns next year. But right now, there is no 2022 summer short-term program. There is no 22-23 long-term youth exchange. And there's no inbound for 22-23. So everything is cycling back one more year. And that's really a heart-wrenching decision that had to be made, but out of just safety. whether or not we could actually get students and parents both ways to be able to come here, and then what would happen if there was another variant, and all of those conversations that, you know, you probably could imagine. But youth exchange remains one of the best opportunities in Rotary to see the international impact of Rotary, to make a difference in the youth that you have with you in your home or in your club or in the district. Rebecca Dunleavy is the Rotary 6440 youth exchange person. Her email is here, and this is actually the brochure that is on the district website now under youth exchange. What you can be doing now, because it is suspended for this year, but what you can be doing now is starting to reactivate the conversations with your high schools, with your club members about getting excited about youth exchange again and making it happen. This year, we actually had 2 outbound students identified, ready to go. And it just broke their hearts and broke their parents' hearts, but it just couldn't be done. And in both cases, I think they were going to be seniors. There was no chance for them to do it again. So they were both 18 and they would have aged out. So it was very, very, very sad. It was a very sad conversation. And they were terrific students. And but we hope that it will be back. Ryla. On the other hand, Ryla is back. Ryla, it will have its first session this year next weekend. It's March 10th to 14th. It is back up in Wisconsin. It is a in-person event. The last email I saw this week was that there are 50 students signed up, so it's very low. And again, a lot of that has to do with the fact that the schools were still working through their COVID protocols about letting students go out on field trips or letting others interact with them, going up to Wisconsin. All the COVID protocols will be followed and are planned to be followed. They've got a terrific program of speakers planned. I know it's very late, but I think if you had an application and a student who was interested, Sean Nelson will get him in next weekend.
Is there a second one?
There is a second one, April 7th to 10th. So it's a month later. And I think I know for sure there's still vacancies for that one as well.
I don't want to ask a shady question, but is there a way to circumvent the school districts in this situation? We have students that wanted to go when the school was like, we can't help.
You need the school's approval on the
It does, okay.
on the permission, yeah.
And why is that? Why do the schools have
I
to
don't
approve it?
know.
Why
Well, they're
not
missing
parents?
school.
Well, you're missing a couple of days of
Yeah.
school, Friday, I guess.
So I'm going on vacation.
Yeah, I knew that somebody would have a more creative way of doing it, but you do, the school has to sign off on it,
It's a
on
vacation
the
for them.
attendance.
So if you approach a student and they fill out the form, can they go to the school?
They need the signature of the school.
From the school, but you don't need involvement in that. They can actually.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Then you need this, well, the Rotary Club that's sponsoring also needs to sign off.
Right.
Because you're paying, the Rotary Clubs are paying for their about $350 tuition.
We just let the schools handle it and they hand us the applications and
Yeah.
we sign off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Now
pretty
they're-
much the way it's been working.
Everything's been so weird.
Unfortunately, again, the schools have been a little bit slower and more cautious in granting that. Again, I think if you've got somebody, even as soon as next weekend, Sean would do everything possible. I know our club has two, and I don't even know if the applications are in yet.
Does everybody know
They
what
might
Ryla
be.
is?
Yeah, it does. I think everybody knows what Rotary Youth Leadership Awards. It's a weekend of growth, of experiencing fabulous speakers, the opportunity to exchange ideas with other kids. In the past, it has generated 300 to 500 students in a weekend. So you can imagine what that, what that means to kids.
If you don't know what Ryla is, or if you're
well-
interested in what Ryla is, you might drive up on one of the mornings.
Yes.
And just observe for a few hours to see what it is. I did that a few years ago, and it was eye-opening to see the quality of the speakers that Sean Nelson is able to bring in, as well as how involved the students get and how enthusiastic they get. If you saw that once, you'd go back to your club and really promote this more. I mean, and if you don't know Sean, this guy is on fire about this. I mean, he just lives and dies this. And talk about somebody that when we canceled this last year, I mean, it was like we tore his heart out. I mean, so, you know, if you want to know what this is about, you know, get a hold of one of us and we'll tell you where it's at and drive up there.
It's East Troy, Wisconsin. So you took my next line, but thank you, Bill.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, we work together.
If you go up there, do you have to have a background check?
No,
No.
no. And again, that's a group, that's a group situation, a group setting. You're not spending any one-on-one time with the students. You're not driving them up there. So no, the answer is no.
All right, for the protection of our Rotary, does anyone in the high school have to sign off on that training and the affidavit? And then the person in our club who's really organizing with the school but never has contact with the students, do they have to have the affidavit and the training?
On the first, the schools are doing their own background checks and protection, so we don't require them to do the Rotary one.
Okay.
I would say that individual in your club, best practice would be to have them complete it.
CYA, okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, liability is a wild and weird thing that you really don't want to open up any opportunities for.
Spoken by a lawyer.
Who didn't have anything to do with this area, but you know, so. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about, next slide, is another event that is planned for 2022, and that is the Rotary Youth Assembly. So Mike Schwert from the Antioch Club, and I should say that Sean Nelson is in the Wheaton Club, so kudos to Sean. Mike Schwert is in the Antioch Club, and he is all things Interact, and he runs the Youth Assembly, which is something that we started several years ago, but not too many. It is open to all high school students. It was canceled last fall, so we're planning it in 2022. It is a day of presentations of world-class speakers. There have been speakers on international mediation. There's been social entrepreneurs. There's been an alumna of different Rotary programs, a Holocaust survivor. It is scheduled to be at the Forest View Community Center in Arlington Heights, which is the original Arlington Heights High School. I think. Again, 300-400 people. Do not need to be RILA, do not need to be Interact. It's any high school student. The admission fee is pretty modest, somewhere maybe $20 for the day, something. So it's very, very affordable. Clubs can sponsor, the kids can do it themselves. I highly recommend you to talk to your high schools. The brochures are out. You can download them from the website or contact Mike Schwert. And we had a whole program set up for last November that we had to cancel with Hands of Peace, which is a group that started in Glenview that brings Israeli and Palestinian kids together in a mediation program for for a week here. And then just great programs, really inspiring. And again, it's a day for these kids, for high school students. So highly encourage you to think about that for this coming fall.
Mary, does the high school select that student?
Nope,
No?
they can.
And our person who would be coordinating that, they should also be affidavit in their youth training.
But you can also have relatives of Rotarians who are students. There's no that kind of thing as there is with some of the other programs. So it's any high school team. So if your church group had high school youth group, you could talk to them about going to the youth assembly. Again, it's open to any high school student, and so makes it very easy, and it's just a one and done. Last slide is Interact. Anybody not know what Interact is? Okay, this is easy. Mike Schwert is also the Interact chair for the district. We have passionate people in District 6440 just about youth. We have Rebecca, we have Sean, we have Mike Schwert, we have Chris Joyce now, who's taking on youth protection in a leadership role. So Interact, international service organization. The name Interact was International in Action. We have 47 Interact clubs in District 6440. We also, if you look on the Rotary site, there are many inactive clubs. There's opportunities for those Interact clubs to be reinstated and revitalized. Our newest Interact club was chartered 2 weeks ago by the Schomburg Hoffman Estates School club, and it's at Conan High School. And I was talking with Tom Ghosh about it, and it was a multi-year process to get that back into the high school. Okay, a long time. Multi-year would be accurate? Yeah, I think so. But that's what I heard. I'm multi-year. Interact students are, again, the future is with our students. They are so invested in service projects. They are so invested. They bring so much energy. They usually self-direct and self-govern themselves. So there's that opportunity for leadership. And Rotary clubs all around, as you know, I'm sure firsthand, have are the beneficiaries of that interaction. So as you can see on the screen, Interact is a large national or international organization. These were some statistics that I actually didn't realize. I kind of thought it was local because I never looked. The interaction, that's terrible. I was gonna say, the interaction between Interact and the club can be a lot or a little. I think that you benefit by having a lot of interaction, by planning programs with them, by participating in their service projects so that they want to participate in your service projects or your volunteer activities. Again, it's an easy, great way to give back to the community and to give something to these students in your neighborhood. So, and that is what I have for you. Oh, well, you're going to talk about the strategic plan. I brought copies of that. Okay. Okay. We don't have a slide on the strategic plan. Many of your clubs may have seen Thor or me or Bill or Kevin coming to the clubs and talking about the District 6440 strategic plan. I have table cards. So when we came to visit the clubs, which we kind of stopped around Christmas because all of a sudden even the Zoom clubs weren't meeting, we dropped these at your in-person meeting. There is, and I have a few more of these here. There is a QR code here that links you to the entire strategic plan that the district has developed. It's a 3-year plan. As Bill said the first time you got together yesterday, none of this can be done together, and that's true at the district level as well. So we are looking for volunteers who find an area within the strategic plan that they think they can help with, whether it be learning and navigating the Rotary world, working on technology and document management, growing membership, increasing our social activities throughout the district so that we all get to know each other better and not just once a year as the leadership changes over. So I have some of these we'll put at the back of the room. If you don't know where they are in your own club, take a few more. And I encourage you to use the scan the QR code, and you can open up and see what we've got there. So, and now I'm done.
Thank you, Mary. Am I on the tape? I'm on the tape.
Oh,
You can see, if you talk up, you're fine, Bill.
Okay. All right. So we're going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about risk. We all have risk in our lives, and we all do things to take care of risk. I'm sure we all, I hope, we all brushed our teeth this morning. And we brushed our teeth for a reason, to lessen the risk that we would have teeth problems and have to go to the dentist. That's an example of risk. We all have risk in our Rotary clubs. Anytime you have any type of an event, there's a risk that something could go wrong. If you have a run, our club has a run, there's a risk that somebody could fall down and hurt themselves. So there's a risk of that. If you have an event where you serve food, somebody could choke. There's a risk of somebody, choking. If you have an event where people drink, believe it or not, there's a risk that somebody could drink too much. Hard to believe that somebody would do that, but that happens. So you do things to make sure that people don't do that. Relative to the choking aspect. Have you ever been to an event where they serve chicken? Have you ever been to an event where they serve chicken with bones in it? No, you always get a chicken breast, and they always cook it for 12 hours to make sure that it's fully cooked so you don't get trichinosis from it. So they don't serve bones, and it's always well done because they're lessening the risk. So in your Rotary Club, you need to think about things that could go wrong. When you got here this weekend, what was one of the things that they wanted to make sure that you had done when you came in the door? They wanted to make sure that you were vaccinated and that you had signed that release. Now, was that a guarantee that you weren't going to get COVID? And if you did get COVID, that you weren't going to sue pets? No, I don't even know if that thing would work or not, but it lessened the risk and they felt better about it. And that's why you do those types of things. In our run, in our Sienna run, we ask people to sign a release. I'm not sure that it would work. If somebody fell down or somebody got pushed down, we still could get sued, but at least we're trying to make an effort to do that. And sometimes you want to modify your activities so that you do lessen the risk. If you have an event where you're allowing people to drink, what might you do to modify those things?
A designated driver.
As for a designated driver?
1 drink per person, one transaction.
1 drink per person. How many drink tickets did you get when you got here?
10.
You got 4, and that was for the whole, it's supposed to be 2 a day.
Yeah.
And I think they told you last night or Friday night last night to drink judiciously, which meant just 2 of your tickets last night. So sometimes you want to use contracts, you want to use agreements, those types of things to make sure that you do those types of things. So I think we can go to the next slide.
This actually already is, I didn't answer it.
So I think we've covered these. Modify your activities to lessen the risk, use contracts, and follow established policies and procedures. So let's go to the next slide. So Rotary does have a policy, a Rotary district and club and district liability policy that covers, it's a general liability policy that covers bodily injury to third party and damage to third party property. It also covers director and officer liability. Some clubs have an additional policy on top of that. Okay, we and the district are not going to make that decision. We don't know whether or not you should have an additional policy. Our club had an additional policy for years. We had an insurance agent in our club who said we needed an additional policy. Okay, we talked to Gallagher this year. Gallagher is the one who holds this policy that is the underwriter of the policy that the district holds. We talked to Gallagher this year, and they said, no, you don't need that additional policy. That you're okay with this policy. So you're really on your own. It's important for you to know that there's this policy is out there, and there's a phone number on my Rotary for you to call if you have a question about this. And you should call that. If you have an agent in your, and I'm not dissing insurance agents, I know some pretty good insurance agents. But do your homework just as you would with if you're buying insurance for yourself. Dave?
And I think they'll provide a certificate of insurance if you need one for the events.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's a good point, especially when you're having an event. Call Gallagher and tell them what you're doing, because that might be an indication of whether or not you need to get an additional policy.
Exactly.
This is actually the website and there's a link there for certificate.
Yeah, so down there you can see, you can call them by doing, sending an email to claims@rotary.org or by faxing to 847-556-2147.
It's for an incident.
Are you pretty impressed that I could read that small print up there?
Very
impressed.
I'd be more impressed if you did.
Oh, yeah, and who's he?
Eric Weingart.
Eric Weingart, and he's in which club?
So Eric Weingart is our insurance advisor from the Glenview Sunrise Club, but he is so if you have a question before you get into any of calling Gallagher, you can call Eric and he can help with interpretations of what the policy says. And he can connect you to the right people at Gallagher.
Any questions about insurance? That was brief, but that's about, we're not gonna get into details with that because we're not experts in insurance. That's why we have Gallagher. That's why we have an insurance person in the district. We just want you to be aware that this exists.
Right, so Linda made a good point. So Eric Weingart, I'm not gonna remember that he's the insurance advisor on the district org chart. So again, go back to district website on the web. We have all the officers and committee chairs and all of that with their contact information. So he's listed there as an insurance advisor.
Are we still on insurance or total on risk still?
They kind of go hand in hand. So,
Oh, I was wondering about, how do you feel about bonding your treasure?
we had a treasurer for the last couple of years in our club. It was
shaky.
It was Dave. I'm pulling Dave. My personal feeling, if I had a treasurer that I thought was kind of shaky, there's a number of things I might do. I'd look for another treasurer first. And the second thing I would do would be to put together a finance committee to make sure that there was other people looking at that situation other than that
No,
treasurer.
I understand all that. I'm just asking, that's not a requirement.
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, but it would be a good practice to have more than one person looking at your
Yeah,
finances.
we have that. I'm
Yeah.
just curious about the bonding.
Not if it depends on how much money.
Jackie?
I would say if your club does a big fundraising project and it's a lot of cash that's coming in, bonding is a good idea. They're not that expensive and it protects everybody. So I would say bond, especially if you have a lot of cash.
Is Gallagher like Rotary's insurance agent?
Yes.
Mhm.
So anything we do would go to him rather than to somebody on the club or something like that.
Yeah.
Right, unless, if you thought that you needed an additional insurance policy, that you weren't covered completely, you would talk to Gallagher, then you might talk to Eric. If they said that you needed an additional insurance policy, you could talk to Gallagher. He's a broker, they are a broker, and you might shop it around to see what kind of price you would get from other people. You don't need to use Gallagher. I mean, you're not committed to Gallagher. The broker is just like any other insurance broker.
The one other thing that Robert mentioned, I think it's important too, if you are having an event that has liquor, you get a liquor liability.
Yeah.
That's not covered under the
Right.
GL policy that Gallagher holds. And they can't tell you, no, they're not going to cover your event. They do have specific criteria that they go by. And if you exceed their criteria, Gallagher can say, no, we're not going to cover your event. I happen to know.
From experience. Now, that doesn't hold true if like the caterer is handling the liquor aspect of it, correct? So you're at a
Yeah,
site.
no, if any kind of a vendor, you have to get their certificates of insurance and make sure that they are listing you as an additional insured. But if you're the one responsible, your organization's the one responsible for the liquor sales.
Yeah.
You are required, I wouldn't say required, but required.
If you
So
get
if
a,
you're not
if you get a
outsourcing
permit from your municipality, which is usually what you're gonna have to get for that special event, the village is gonna, or the municipality is gonna require that you show your certificate of insurance or that you're an additional insured or both on that, in order to get the permit to hold the event, whatever it is.
Okay, so who can summarize what was just said here?
Cover.
Call
Sue
Gallagher.
Weinway.
Yeah, make sure you do your homework. If you're having an event, you just can't have the event. There's things that you need to check into, insurance, permits.
Well, in the fundraising seminar, we heard, don't outsource the beer. So if you're not outsourcing the beer, then you need the liquor insurance, whatever.
You could outsource the beer, but you probably wouldn't make as much money.
That was why we didn't outsource the beer.
Any other questions about risk or insurance?
This is the website and the password to get into it. It's Gallagher.
Okay. And this is on the website. Is this on My Rotary or on?
This is on the, I'm not sure if it's on the district website, but it's on the president resources that I have talked about and I'll talk about again tomorrow. There is this link at the top, which nobody's going to remember, and the password, but that is there so that if you want to go to Gallagher to the specific Rotary account at Gallagher, that's how you get to it.
Now, yesterday, I mentioned the president resource page on the district website, and I know there was, I don't know, a handful of people whose eyes rolled, but I know that those people went home last night and looked at that part of the website, right?
Ron.
We're going to do it again tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
'cause it was
okay.
So much fun.
If you're one or two of those people that didn't do that, we'll go home tonight and go look at it so that when Linda brings this up again tomorrow.
If you just put it, if you just Google Rotary Insurance, it'll come up because that's how I get into it to cover an event.
Do you get the password?
You know, don't give Carlos any hints on how to do
That's
things.
the way I find it. You cannot do a find.
You can Google anything and find
No,
anything.
don't do a search, do a Google search.
Did I hear right that Gallagher does not cover Rotary Club events?
Yeah, no,
No,
they
they do. You need to ask them though. So for what I heard Jackie say, that was for their event. Some of the events they may not cover. You need to ask them. Their event is very large.
Well, our event wasn't covered because of prior losses, and they have it. I mean, it's just like if you had homeowners insurance, if you have more than one claim, insurance companies aren't gonna want to insure you, right? Because the risk is too high. So we had to go through a very long, arduous time, had to pay for our own insurance, which can be very, very, very expensive, depending on your event and what you have at your event.
And to repeat what John Addis just wrote on the screen, you're going to get a letter from Rotary International's insurance department explaining how to do this as presidents.
Okay.
Look for it.
That's very nice. I got the letter as treasurer, so I
Oh, you didn't?
It
Okay.
goes to more than just the president.
Any other questions? So we have,
We're going to switch gears to the Anytown video.
yeah, okay, so let's go to the Anytown video.
As Rotary, we often ask ourselves, how do we grow? Personally, professionally, and organizationally? The answer is simple. To grow Rotary, we need more Rotary clubs. Let's use Anytown as an example. Anytown is a city of 100,000 people and home to one proud Rotary club. But there are hundreds of other people of action, just like us, who are uniquely qualified to become Rotary members. They share the same drive and represent the values and fundamentals of a Rotary member. So why aren't they members? Well, the current club meets on Monday. There are leaders in Anytown who can't meet on a Monday. By excluding this segment, the potential members in Anytown has shrunk. Now consider, what if the meeting is at noon on Monday? There are people who can meet on Monday, but can't meet at noon. So now we have a smaller audience for Rotary in Anytown. Of the remaining group, some aren't interested in a club with a sit-down lunch and speakers. They are passionate about service, but aren't interested in a traditional club experience. And that is okay. The Rotary Club of Anytown isn't doing anything wrong. It just doesn't appeal to particular segments of the community. And if we're going to thrive for years to come, we must adapt and embrace change. In Anytown, we have an opportunity to expand because potential members are everywhere. More than half of the eligible people are prospective Rotary members, waiting to make a bigger impact in their community. But what Rotary Club exists for them? If Anytown creates new clubs at new times and new places, the hidden potential for Rotary will be revealed. As people of action, we must broaden our reach and provide opportunities to all leaders in the community. Together, all of us can grow Rotary.
There's no best time for it. So think about that video and what we heard from Tom Gump this morning, and Alex Johnson at lunch today. I mean, there's lots of people out there who aren't part of Rotary that can be Rotarians. It's just that we haven't found how to bring them in yet. And think about how you can strengthen your clubs, maybe through satellite clubs or other vehicles. Now, we're going to spend some time now talking about how we could strengthen our clubs using things like this and such, but we're just about out of time.